I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, where I'm from, who I am, what career I was in, my health situation. I'm going to be answering questions that you have asked in the comments section. So, hey, hit that pause button, grab yourself a beverage or a snack, and come on back. This is what it's all about. Getting together with friends over a cup of coffee or a snack and having a wonderful conversation. Hopefully, this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship with each and every one of you. So go ahead. Get yourself your drink or your snack and I'll wait. You made it back? Wow. I'm so glad that you made it to my channel. Let's get right to it. My name is Beth from Rekindled Love with Beth. I live in the United States on the East Coast in a state named Pennsylvania. I came from what they would say is a large family. There's 6 of us kids. I have 4 older sisters and an older brother. They're all a year apart, and me and my brother were 3 years apart. I'm the only family member, though, that gets to say, I got a big brother. And I love my big brother. We did so many things together growing up. I love you so much. But anyway, I also have children. I have 3 boys and a daughter, and I have lots of grandchildren. My family lives here in Pennsylvania, but also in Michigan as well. And it's nice to be able to go and to travel. I used to. Michigan is beautiful in the fall. My heavens, the trees are so vivid and bright, just gorgeous. I would recommend a Michigan trip or a Vermont trip to anybody. I've been to both places and they're both beautiful. I've also been down to a lot of states through the eastern coast of the United States down to Florida. I resided in Florida for a brief time and in Maryland as well. So I've had my little travels amongst my journey, but now I'm mainly at home. This is where you'll find me day in and day out. I usually make it from my bed and I'll get around and I'll come out into my chair. On days that I'm feeling up to it, I'll get my housework done and get some music going and just get into the word and study and just try to make a productive day out of what I'm dealt with daily. And part of that is because of my health, but we'll get into that. Career-wise, I did work. I worked in a hospital was my very first job. I worked in the cafeteria. I prepared meal trays for the patients. And I also worked as the cashier in the cafeteria of the hospital. So I would make sure that the food line was all freshened up in the salad bar, as well as checking um, the staff and the visitors as they went through the checkout line. But then I became a certified nursing assistant. And I worked in nursing homes for years. I loved it. The one on one contact with everybody, I think that was truly a job that molded me to be who I am today. Working one on one and helping others and assisting them, and to see the smile on their face and the look in their eyes when they would see you taking the time out to talk to them as you're caring for them, and that you show that you have a valued interest in their lives. I was the one. Although I had a family, there was something about the holidays and working in a nursing home or a hospital around those who don't have family. Those who don't have family or friends, they're alone in life. And I was the one that always volunteered to work on Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter, because I wanted to make sure that everyone who I cared for had a wonderful day. And even if it was just my presence, saying hi or giving them a hug, it meant a lot. So, from working in the nursing homes, I went a time that I was not well. And when I decided to return back to work, I started working part time in the mental health field. And I loved that job. It was actually involved with people who received mental health and substance abuse services and supports. I would ensure that those individuals received the services and supports that they needed to live successfully in the community. And we did that also by assessing the services and supports that were available for those individuals to ensure that they were happy with the services that they received and that they lived the highest quality of life possible. I just loved it. Can you tell? You see the passion in my eyes? My eyes twinkle because I just love being around people and to be their advocate. And I think what the main thing was to see change. It was to see positive changes in people's lives and in the healthcare system. But there came a time that I became unwell. And we'll just go into my health background because there is a little bit to it. When I was 3 years old, I was hit by a car. I was. You always want to watch those babies or any little ones when you're around traffic or anything. But isn't it something how we can't remember good things in life, but the bad things, boy, you remember them as if they were yesterday. I can remember being that 3-year-old little girl in her little bikini. And we came back from a day trip to the water It wasn't a water park, it was a lake. And we went there every year. And I can remember being across the street with my sisters holding my hand, and my mother was there speaking with the neighbors as my dad was parking our car in the garage. But I looked across the street and saw my dad walking out of the garage, and I let go of my sister's hands. And I ran between two parked cars out into the street. And I was hit. I was drug under the car. I thank God because I had long hair. It wrapped around the exhaust pipe and probably saved my life. I have burns on my arm and on my right leg and on my back. I broke 3 of my vertebrae in my neck and had to wear a neck collar. And back then, we lived in an old Victorian house. It was a doctor's office and pharmacy. And in the basement, we had a dungeon, and it was really cold. I can remember my father taking me down every day when he would get home from work, and he would have to unwrap. Whew, he would have to unwrap those bandages. And it hurt so bad, but I can remember him encouraging me the whole way, just telling me to hold on a little longer, it'll be okay. Daddy just needs to finish this. And then he worked with me with my walking. And I was a trooper, and I healed well from the accident. As you can tell, I'm here today. And then, as a child, I had a thing with always breaking my ankles. I don't know about you, but I have broken my ankles so many times in my life. Must have been at least 3 or 4 times on each ankle. God is my judge. You see my medical records, you'd probably, you'd be thanking God too that I'm still here. Yeah, I can remember being a child and being in school in band front with my brother. We went to band camp every year. I was a majorette. What did I do during practice? I fell. Had to leave band camp. I could just walk across the yard and break my ankle. I had my youngest child with a half a leg cast on because I went and carried out the trash and fell 3 steps down off of my deck. So I had my youngest child. Yep, my leg was up in stirrups with an old thing wrapped around it to protect it. But then after I gave birth, it must have been the day after they had cut the cast off, because I had to have surgery as well. They did a tubal ligation on me at that time. And unfortunately, I became sick after I had my tubal ligation. And my youngest son, I ended up in the hospital. They weren't quite sure what was wrong with me, and they discovered that I had an ovarian cyst. So they had to do a left oophorectomy, where they removed the cyst in my left ovary in hopes that my right ovary would still ovulate and I wouldn't need, like hormones, things like that. Wouldn't need a hysterectomy because I was young. I was 25 years old, and I had a left oophorectomy, and unfortunately, 6 months after that, I ended up with a total abdominal hysterectomy. I started hemorrhaging really bad after I went back to work, and the cyst had returned. So I ended up with a total abdominal hysterectomy shortly before I turned 26. But my health was okay after that, with the exceptions of, the every occasional broken ankle. I did yo-yo all my life with the dieting and had issues. I would always be on any type of diet. The newest diet that came out, I was on it because there was a time when I became heavy and I didn't like it. I went on diets, lots of different diets, but also my weight wasn't just affected, my cholesterol was. I had really bad cholesterol problems. So my doctors put me on cholesterol medication. Well, with certain medication, you have to have regular blood work. And for me, it was every 3 months with my cholesterol medication. They did my labs and they would find out, regardless of what statin they would put me on for my cholesterol, my liver levels would increase. So they would have to take me off. I would have to be off of it for so many months before I would be placed on a different one. Well, that didn't work. But at the same time, I was dieting. I started to work out on a treadmill. It helped so much with stress. Oh, walking is so wonderful. I miss that so bad. To de-stress on a treadmill or even out in nature, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than that connection. But anyway, I wasn't able to handle the medication, so we went the weight loss surgery route. Yes, we did. I was down to 239 pounds, but decided to do the weight loss surgery in hopes that it would help correct my liver enzymes and my cholesterol. But unfortunately, my weight loss surgery didn't go well. At first it did. But then I started not feeling well a couple months later. And when they finally decided, I shouldn't say decided because they didn't decide, but by the time tests were completed and I had my appointment, it was determined that I had an esophageal ulcer. And I needed to get that ulcer out. But I wasn't strong enough. I became that ill that I had to be placed on TPN through a PICC line, a central line that went up and gave me my nutrition that I needed. So I was hooked up to a bag for 12 hours a day to build my body up for surgery. And at the same time that they were going to go in and to clean up the ulcer, they were going to place a feeding tube because they knew that I was struggling. So I went and I was on TPN for 3 weeks, I believe it was, and I had my surgery. I woke up from my revision surgery and I thought that I was going to be feeling a feeding tube. It's actually the first thing I did when I woke up. It was to feel my abdomen to see if I had a feeding tube, and I didn't. I was so happy. I was so happy I didn't have a feeding tube. Boy, doesn't. Life happens, I'll just say. Because when the doctor came in, I didn't have a feeding tube. But I didn't have a feeding tube because the ulcer did so much damage. It eroded through my pouch, eroded through my residual stomach, eroded through part of my intestines, and damaged my liver. And there was no option for a feeding tube. That's the severity of the damage. No option. We're hoping that you get better after that, huh? That I was through the worst. It was just beginning. That was 15 years ago, by the way. 15 years ago. They discovered I became very sick after they did the revision. I ended up with a chest tube. I was in the hospital for almost a month. But I did get out. I did improve. I returned to work, but only part-time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue work. I had to apply for disability. After the revision, they discovered that I had a blockage in my liver. My bile duct was blocked, so they had to give me a biliary catheter. The biliary catheter it's down right below my sternum, and then the tube would go into my liver and it would collect your bile that your liver produces. So it would actually go into the bag instead of being processed through my body as they worked on stretching out my duct so that it could be opened again and functional. And I had a biliary catheter for a year. Many, many times during that year, it was at least once a month, if not every other week, they would have to go in and reinsert the tubing into my liver because I would have abdominal spasms and it would work the tube right out. By the time I was done after that year, I looked like somebody took me and there was a fisherman working on me because I was aware that tubing was wrapped with this. It reminded me of fishing line is what it did to keep it in there. It was something. But I'll tell you what, after that year, and they removed the catheter, and they were successful at opening up my bile duct, it was like the floodgates opened. It was the first time since I had my weight loss surgery that I could actually say that I felt my core. Does anybody know what I mean when I say that? I felt my core. I felt like my body was functioning right for the very first time in a long time. It felt good. It felt good. And I thought I was over the hurdle, but guess what? The race isn't over yet. I had another hurdle. I woke up in the middle of the night one night, heaving something terrible. My heart was just a beating very fast and sporadic. I couldn't stand stricture on my body. I felt like I was suffocating. I literally felt like I was dying. I was flinging my arms and my legs. I couldn't lay still. It was something. It was something. And you know what? People are cruel. And we'll go over that because I've healed since then. But anyway, they did a CAT scan and discovered I had an intussusception. I had to be sent to another hospital for emergency surgery. My intestines were telescoped in one another. It's something that happens or may be more common in an infant or a newborn, but not adults. Adults don't normally get into, very, very rarely do they. I had to have the emergency surgery. Unfortunately, they were able to take care of the intussusception. However, where my intestines were telescoped into one another, those areas of the intestine are paralyzed. So now you're dealing with delayed emptying syndrome on top of not being able to eat because of all of the changes. So we have a lot going on there. And I'm going to try to keep this to as close to 40 minutes as I can because I bet your coffee's getting colder. You need to get it topped. At any time, feel free to hit that stop button and come back. I'd love you to continue on with my story. I'm almost done. Okay? But anyway, I went. Doctor said, why don't we get your teeth taken care of? Get you those implants that you want to have, and maybe you'll be able to eat better. You'll be able to process your food. Maybe it'll help with swallowing. I had my teeth extracted. Unfortunately, my mouth didn't heal. Doctors couldn't figure out why my mouth did not heal. Couldn't figure it out. I was sent for labs. Now, people, brothers and sisters, come on now. At 59 years old, I was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder that is inherited. Go figure, out of all things. And get this, this is interesting. It's called, in short, HPP, only because the name is hard. And let me tell you the name. Hypophosphatasia. Hypophosphatasia. otherwise known as Rathbun disease. It's a rare genetic disorder characterized by the deficiency of the ALP enzyme in your liver, bone, and kidneys. So, they targeted the HPP because my alkaline phosphate in my lab work has been low. They have it low all the way back in the mid-90s. That's when electronic filing came along. Nobody noticed this before. No one signaled about the fractured bones because I didn't just fracture my feet. I had a friend give me a hug and he fractured 3 of my ribs. I had my little Shih Tzu. When my husband was out of town, we were sitting on the sofa and he was just a little puppy. I got up and he ran between my legs and I went flying up in the air and back on the floor. And let me tell you what, I felt so sick to my stomach. I cried and cried. I couldn't move for like 10 minutes. I broke my back. I broke my back. And here it's all because of this HPP. Now, I've always had DEXA scans done. They're bone scans to measure your density of your bones. They were figuring I had osteoporosis because I had my hysterectomy when I was 25, almost 26. That's young to have a hysterectomy and not to have any hormones or anything. So, for me, there's no treatment. For me, there's treatment for HPP. It's called Strensiq. It's a vaccine that you have to give yourself shots. And without doctors not knowing my whole case, doctors wanted to put me on it. And oh my goodness, I'm malnourished. I'm not in any shape to be put on a vaccine that I need to have 3 times a week to help build up my bones. My doctor did a DEXA scan. The only thing left for my bones to do is to break. I don't have the strength in my bones. My bones are very porous now. And I get very scared because I have a hard time walking. I have a hard time with my hands. So it makes it difficult to use adaptive equipment, although I got myself, oh boy, it's a big machine. Anyway, you can check out one of my shorts and you'll see it. I say I need to put a motor on it. It's that pride. But anyway, there isn't anything that they can do about the HPP. They weren't able to do the implants in my mouth. They were able to give me dentures. However, my mouth isn't healed properly and my bones are too severe that I'm unable to wear the teeth because of my jaw and my bone structure. And because of my bones and the extractions, it affected like my sinuses. So, we have HPP. We're 60 years old. We're sitting in a chair all day. not sure what to do with myself. I'm on a line. I'm not a person to get online, but I got started on YouTube, and I got started with a community, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I know what I need. I need to get on YouTube. I need to start a channel. I know I'm not alone. I cannot be the only person that is homebound going through a bad situation, because they say, you may think your situation's worse. You don't know what the other person's been through. And I believe that. We're all on our own journeys. But sometimes our journeys get lonely. Sometimes we just want to vent. Sometimes we just want to know that we exist, or that we're cared for or about. And that's why I started my channel. For others and for me to build a community where we can come together and we can communicate together. I'm a game for new friends. Totally, totally. And you never know. Never know what'll happen on this channel. I like to have fun. I do. I like to have fun. I like to be around people, although I haven't been around many people, that you become safe right where you are. I'm very content knowing how cruel the world can be and people. And just with my own situation, I have more control if I'm here at home. Because I'm the boss here. Nobody's going to disrespect anybody. We're all going to love one another. And for those who need to hear it, regardless of what you're going through, I started, and I believe it, that it'll be all right. Whatever we're going through, it'll pass. It may be uncomfortable. It may be hard. It may be difficult. But we're here for one another. And we're going to encourage and support and love. So come on. Continue with me. It's less than 40 minutes. I did it. I met my goal. Please leave any comments down below. Hit the like button and subscribe. It helps with channel growth. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day, wherever you are. Until the next time.